But welcome to today's webinar on Belbin and dynamic goal setting. We are excited to be here today. Of course, I've got Leslie joining us. Leslie is the CMD at Pre-Pearl Training Development, a behavioral change expert and over 40 years of industry experience. Leslie has worked very closely with Dr. Robert Blake and, of course, Belbin UK, the first to really bring the Belbin team role concepts to India. Deep work in performance management for the Taj Group of Hotels, Tata Coffee, Anchor by Panasonic, and of course also Vodafone. Leslie is a behavioral coach to business leaders. Welcome, Leslie, on our webinar today.
Thanks very much. Real pleasure to be here.
And my name is Pearl D'Souza. I'm the director at Pre-Pearl Training Development. My forte has been, of course, in the area of working with intact teams, consulted with clients across industries, and led wide-scale Belbin implementations, of course, in organizations like Tata Business Excellence, Chola Mandalam Finance, Hexaware Technologies. Of course, as a director of Pre-Pearl, we also represent Belbin in India. So really looking forward to the discussion today, where we're really going to be looking at the concept of goal setting, something that we've been doing for quite some time, but going to be looking and seeing, is there a new way, is there a new spotlight in a way that we can put to this process? Leslie.
Sure. And so it's for quite a long time now that the dominant focus in managing performance has been on setting smart goals. Of course, it's a process where tangible outcomes are measured and are compared to set and established metrics. This is good, but human performance is a process of intangibles. And it is these intangibles that actually deliver the tangible outcomes. Now, can these intangible processes of the way we make decisions, or we advocate a point of view, come up with new ideas, or build consensus, can these be really measured? It's difficult, but not impossible. With sound reflection and critique, we can. Now imagine if there was a way for you and me to measure the quality and the impact of these intangibles. Wouldn't that be great? We would surely be more aware, more equipped, more knowledgeable about the way we add value and contribute in unique ways at our workplace. Belbin, in fact, taps deeply into the positive psychology and actually helps us discover what really gives life to us, what talents and gifts that come to the fore to make us successful. What is it that gives us joy, happiness, pleasure? What are our sources of pain at work? Well, my dear friends, managing the present and the future in this VUCA times is really calling for a new way to measure performance, a method that measures the quality of the human process. It is established that sound processes do deliver sound results. And if we don't get the sound results, then we need to really reflect and critique the process and recalibrate. Today, we are going to explore a different and a new approach to goal setting, a method that leverages individual strengths using the unique work style reports of Belbin into place. Yeah.
So as Leslie was talking about the whole need for a new way to measure performance, a new way of really measuring where you can look at the quality of the human process, where it's allowing to really look at the complexity and the dynamism that really comes about in this entire process. And therefore, what we're really going to be looking at today and the content of the webinar is definitely dynamic goals. How do we create dynamic goals that align with department and organizational focus? We will look at how the Belbin team roles particularly can be used to leverage and to deep dive into the how of setting enabling goals and also designing our KRAs that draw the best out of individuals. And at this place, we will also be looking at the different insights that Belbin gives us through some of the key reports. And we will focus on that area to see how can it really help us enable the entire goal setting process. And while that happens, it naturally, I think, very beautifully lends itself to building a process that fosters a spirit of collaboration amongst team members. More and more, we're beginning to see that if a goal needs to be accomplished, you need a number of people to come together to work towards it. And therefore, how can that really be focused on during the goal setting process is something that we will also look at. For everyone who has joined us, just to let you know about the platform that we are using, we are, of course, on the YouTube platform. During the course of the webinar, we do hope you will have comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to put that in the comments section that you will see on your screen. You will see the comments section just below the screen right now. That's just below the presentation that we are making, or it should be on the right-hand side of your screen. It may ask you to create a channel to join the chat, which basically is creating your account on YouTube. That does not really take time. You just need to sign into your YouTube account or your Gmail ID so as to be able to send in a few comments. Yeah, so that's the outline for the webinar, and let us therefore then get started.
Well, here we go.
So to start off with the whole aspect of creating dynamic goals, when we look at the goal setting process, we found that the whole concept of the 3-box strategy that Vijay Govindarajan speaks about is extremely useful. And I'm going to invite Leslie to throw some light onto what is the 3-box strategy and how can it help us?
Well, very interestingly enough, Dr. Govindarajan actually mentions this fact that his first assignment when he got into consulting and coming into consulting with his background of finance and accounting, he was looking at a way to deliver to the client what the client really wanted and could understand. And whilst he was reflecting on this assignment and the way to go about how do you actually measure performance, he came up with this very, very interesting concept of the 3-box strategy, which is actually now used far beyond the initial purpose of that creation, which is used for innovation, used for strategy. And even at a very personal level, the 3-box strategy can be used for change. So the first box is taking a good look at managing the present and what is it that I am doing to improve, to enhance, so that the business, in fact, is more effective, is more productive, moving in a direction where you're really, the bottom line is getting impacted positively. And now this is an area which he found that really a lot of people spend a lot of time on this. And of course, now The other two boxes which he thought was really very important was the second box, which was selecting and deciding to abandon certain things selectively. Now, this was something it didn't originally come up in his thought process. What came up in his thought process originally was the third box of creating the future, looking into the future. What are we doing today so that we survive into the future? But when he started reflecting and working on this, he really realized that unless we are able to selectively abandon the past, we will not be able to create the future. Now, this second box is that area which is actually very subtle, not very easy to touch and to know what exactly you should be able to abandon. And that's because what he calls is we are successful. And then we develop what is known as a dominant logic of the way of doing things. And we continue to do things the way we were doing in the past, even though they are not positively helping us in the future. And this is the area that requires a lot of thought and a lot of introspection. So when we are doing our goal setting, it's very important for us to look at how much time are we spending, or how much of our goals are fitting into which box. And that can throw light into how successful will we be in managing the future in these very difficult and VUCA times.
And I think it's very interesting because, of course, Professor Govindarajan says that the box of creating the future and selectively abandoning the past, that's really where innovation, your breakout performance, your growth is happening. And this particular framework becomes very useful for us as leaders and managers when we're really looking at constantly checking and seeing, are our goals dynamic? Is it in alignment with the focus of the larger organization? And one of the exercises, in fact, that we're going to recommend that you do is look at the focus areas for yourself. What are the aspects that you are focusing on this month, the next 3 months? Those focus areas, in which of the 3 buckets, or how would you kind of place your different activities and focus areas in these 3 buckets, and to ask yourself, is it really working towards what is really required? So putting the activities in the 3 boxes and constantly checking it becomes something that is really useful.
And it's important to note, if we are spending, and in all our work that we've done, and we ask this question, there is a deep realization that we are spending 60-70% on managing the present, in perfecting the present, which is good, of course, right? But then the time that is spent on creating the future, we need to wait and see whether it's appropriate, all right? And this can be done at every level in the organization. And most importantly, what are we doing to be able to be insightful and understand what exactly we should stop doing in the present?
I think this is also where now it becomes important to say, okay, what do I do to manage the present? What do I abandon? And what are new opportunities, therefore, that I can create for myself and therefore the organization? And I think over here, when you're looking at this as a strategy, that's really when the whole bit of how do you put soul into strategy. And when Leslie spoke about earlier, where our focus has usually been on SMART goals, and that is important, that must stay. But how do you kind of add the behaviors to that? When you're looking at what are the new ways of working? What do I selectively abandon? How do I look at that bit? And that's where we believe the Belbin team roles can be extremely important, giving you that spotlight and that tool to look at behavior that can drive hard results. Now, For those who have used Belbin before but would like just a very quick run through, of course, you are aware that Dr. Meredith Belbin spoke of 9 different contributions or 9 different ways in which we basically contribute at the workplace. The 9 contributions today are known as the team roles. And as you see on the screen, one of the team roles to start off with, for example, is the plant. This is someone who's fantastic with coming up with ideas. The resource investigator, very good at exploring opportunities, networking. The coordinator, very good at clarifying goals, builds consensus. The shaper, someone who drives hard, has the courage to overcome obstacles, a no-nonsense person. The monitor evaluator, the main contribution is the ability to weigh options, to strategize. The team worker, really the person who is extremely sensitive and perceptive to the needs of others. The implementer, putting processes in place, turning ideas into on-the-ground practical actions. The completer finisher, someone who searches out errors, really looking at perfecting and polishing. And then you have the specialist, one who really provides deep domain knowledge that can possibly be in rare supply. Now, of course, Belbin has said these are all of the 9 different contributions or the 9 ways in which people contribute at the workplace and contribute effectively at the workplace. And when you look at an individual, every individual plays all of the 9 roles, but you have 3 roles that are known as your preferred roles. You have the next 3 that are known as your manageable, and the last 3 known as your least preferred roles. Your preferred roles are really your strengths. So from those 19 roles, which are the ones that you can really develop and perfect? Your manageable roles, which are the next 3 roles, are roles that are, I keep saying this, it's part of your armory. You can use it as and when it's necessary. And then you have the least preferred roles. Now, this is really interesting. The least preferred roles are the roles and the activities that, as far as possible, to delegate within the team or collaborate with others to really make that a reality, because that may not necessarily be your top strength. Yeah. Now, when we've traditionally been looking at goal setting, we've normally always looked at the task. We've always looked at what is it that needs to be delivered. We're trying to shift this a little bit right now by also putting the spotlight on the person, on the individual, and say, what is it that this person is bringing onto the table? And therefore, how can we now craft goals in such a way that it is allowing the person to really contribute in a meaningful way? It's allowing the person to really get a sense of worth, and it is allowing the person to leave his unique imprint while meeting really the demands of the job.
Yeah, and in fact, these are those intangibles that we are talking about, which is which is ignored very often in the whole process of managing performance, with the extreme focus on looking at the tangibles outcomes. Those tangible outcomes, my dear friends, is necessary if we have to manage the future, really needed to be measured against the quality of these intangibles. Is there a way for us to measure these intangibles? And that's what we really want to see right away and get a handle of it.
Yeah. So let's now look at a job description. So let's look at typical JD. And here we are taking that of a sales manager. Okay. And we are saying that the focus areas for the sales manager over here, we are saying acquiring new customers, building the organization's presence as a key player in the industry, sales strategy to identify and target prospective partners, prospective clients, introduce new products in the market to grow the presence of the organization. So these are your hard results. These are the results that are required of a sales manager. So that's your focus area.
This is the example we are taking for demonstration.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just an example. Correct. So if you were to look at, therefore, the goal sheet, okay, we're saying the goal sheet would more or less look like this. So you've got the focus areas. We've put down the KRA or the key result areas, and then you've got the measurement. I'm just going to read out the focus areas in case the print is a little too small. I have written acquiring new customers, building organization presence as key industry player, target prospective clients, and introduce new client connector opportunities to grow the market. Okay, so we put those down as the focus areas. What also, of course, becomes interesting is when you're getting down to this particular example, and if you have already done the 3 box exercise, you're also getting to see, is there a new focus area that you want to introduce into your goal sheet? Yeah. So we've got the goal sheet over here. We've really looked at what are the demands of the job. Okay. Now what we're going to really look at is, this is what is demanded, but what are those intangible characteristics or those intangibles that would really fuel success for this position? Okay, and for that, what we've really used is we've used the Belbin job report. Now, the job report is a job requirement exercise that is actually filled by the manager of the job. So say, for example, the sales manager in this case reports into you. Okay, you would complete the job report, which basically is a set of about 16 sentences, and you've got to state or rate those sentences, grade them as either vital, important, useful, irrelevant, or unhelpful. And the sentences, for example, would be, the person needs to develop the field of work without needing to draw on the advice of others. This is a kind of job that is going to really require quite a bit of persuading, etc. Okay, so there are 16 different sentences, and you've got to kind of grade that. Now, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes.
About 15 minutes for someone who knows the job well, and definitely the manager of the job definitely would have a deep insight and would very quickly be able to do this grading exercise.
Yeah. Once this is done, what you really get then is the job report, and we're going to give you a sample. So Leslie completed the job report for the sales manager. And what you see over here, of course, visually, you can see the team roles that seem to be important. But what's really insightful is the content that's generated just below the graph. Yeah? So it talks about, to be successful in the job, what are things that are going to be important? Now, at the time of goal setting, this is where you're actually getting to see what are the key behaviors that seem to be important. So, for example, over here, the whole aspect of creating opportunities. Whatever is opened up, pursuing the same with a sense of purpose and dedication. The social aspects of the work is important. However, it will not count for much unless the person can be relied on to deliver what is promised. So follow through seems to be a really important aspect that this job demands. Meeting and taking the initiative with people you may not know, being proactive, a positive person, inquisitive and outgoing approach. These are aspects that are going to be valued. Now, what is really happening is you're really beginning to add depth into that job description of what were really the demands of the job. You're kind of putting in a little more, I like to call it a little bit of soul into the process.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Yeah.
And therefore now, so we've got your JD, you've got a little insight in terms of what is this job really requiring? What are the behaviors that are required of this job? You now look at the individual report. So say, for example, I was reporting in to you and I'm kind of looking at the profile of the sales manager. You would then take my individual report, and as you're aware, when you're looking at Belbin, The Belbin individual report takes in the self-perception and also inputs from people who know the person well, so as to really understand what are the person's strengths, what are the manageable roles, and what are the least preferred roles for this particular individual. So let's look at what an individual report then looks like. At the time of goal setting, this particular page of the report is usually what we always look at. So this is your overall overview of the report. You have your top 3 team roles. Okay, those are the individual strengths. You have the manageable roles. These are roles that are available to the person, and the person can, it's almost like the person can stretch to make these contributions and bring it onto the table. And of course, you have the least preferred roles. Now, there's another very critical and interesting report that you get as part of your individual report, and that's called the work styles report. The work styles report combines the first and third. So basically combines your top 14 roles and helps you understand what's the strength that you bring onto the table.
So basically, when you get a chance to play your top team roles, the preferred team roles, the top 4 team roles, and they work in combination, something very unique happens. It's like magic, you know. This is really what actually drives someone to get into flow. All right, where he is now feeling excited about the way he can contribute because it's coming out from those inherent strengths that he has built up over a period of time.
Yeah. In fact, if you have done your Belbin profiling, okay, and you know your top 3 roles, my recommendation right now is to just put those top 3 roles, write it down so it's in front of you. Okay, so just put that down and you can follow us while we do this exercise a little later. So you have your work styles report. I'm going to read out to you what the report says and looks like, because I think it would be, the print may be a little small. So for example, TW and RI together, it's called listening. I'm looking at the second combination. So TW and RI together is listening. My strength lies in building better communications with each other. Okay, I'm going to look at the last option over here, which is SH and RI together, Shaper and RI. That's exploiting opportunities. So I like to be given responsibility for grasping opportunities and driving things forward. Okay. You therefore have, so now you've got the person, the employee, you've got the work styles report in front of you, and you have got the team role overview. So you've got the top 3 and you've got the manageable roles that's given to you. Now, keeping all of this in mind, you now go back to the goal sheet. Okay. And when you go back to the goal sheet, you've got the top roles over there. We've got the focus areas put down. We've also included now a whole section on team role strengths. And right on top, what I have done over here is I have put down the person's top 3 roles and I have put down the person's manageable roles. So the TWSHRI are the top roles. The CO, the PL, and the SP are the manageable roles for the individual. Now, we've got the focus areas that you've put down. So let's look at the first focus area. So the first focus area is that of acquiring new customers. When you look at this area, okay, you will then look at help the employee to look at the team role strengths. Also look at the work styles report and say, can any of these characteristics really help us power this focus area? So for example, the team role strength over here could be the TWRI combination, which basically is building better communication with others. And this could be something that could be used in this focus area.
And this is one of those 4 work style combinations. Yeah?
Yes. So what would the KRA possibly look like? So the KRA could say, connect with 1 new client every 2 weeks and follow up with new member engagement. Measurement, conversion of 2 clients per quarter leading to a realization of X amount of rupees. Yeah. So that's really in terms of putting your number or putting a metric to this entire bit. Note also over here This KRA also now is influenced by the job report understanding, because the job report did say that it would value someone who's proactive, the social skills would be valued in terms of connecting with new people, etc. And this is really leveraging that person's strength, since he already has the TWRI contribution.
And now when this gets into his goal sheet or his KRAs, he knows he has it with him. He knows, he feels that you're setting him up for success.
Oh, nice.
And that's something that, every subordinate loves.
Right. Let's look at another example, building organization presence as key industry player. Okay. Now over here, we're saying probably some bit of the SP could also be used. And of course, the RI. Notice over here, the SP is one of his manageable roles. So we're really looking at his strengths and saying how can we kind of leverage it in the current environment. So the KRA over here, content creation to build credibility in the industry and position the organization as a subject matter expert. Measurement, bag 3 industry publications and speaker opportunities. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Another example, target prospective clients. Here we've taken again from the work style report, the SHRI combination, grasping opportunities and driving things forward. Okay. Now remember, the focus area is target prospective clients. What can the KRA look like? Reconnect with the current dormant customer base and drive growth by introducing an incentive scheme. Okay. Measurement, increase the sales by about 20% from the dormant customer base. Remember over here, it says grasping opportunities and driving things forward. It's causing the person to really think of, okay, where is a current opportunity that we have to target prospective clients? And possibly the person has realized that we have a sitting base of dormant customers. I will now particularly focus on them. I kind of seem to know what can be an incentive scheme that I can drive in. So you're already beginning to get the person to think of how to write his KRAs, where he already now has a plan in his mind as he's putting this together.
Beautiful.
The last example over here, introduce new client connection opportunities to grow the market. So how do we connect with clients and how do we introduce new client connect opportunities? Let's say over here, we really need a PL to think of ideas.
Yeah, a plan for that matter. Yep, carry on.
And the KRA could be implement one new client connect idea per quarter. Okay. And the measurement, increase in engagement and inquiries by 15% of the previous year. So what we're really saying is we want to come up with client connect opportunities. Okay. We want new ideas in terms of how to do it. Very importantly, this is also something that needs to be implemented. So not only coming up with the idea, but also implementing this is going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as Leslie mentioned, when you kind of put together a goal sheet that is looking at the job demands and looking at the person and what the person brings in, automatically there is a sense of energy and positive energy that's really fueling the process. What we also want to kind of share over here is how this can also lead to collaborative goals.
Yeah.
How this is also a process that you can kind of sit with your team and also do it together. So, for example, let's take the last focus area, which is really introduce new client connect opportunities to grow the market. Now, obviously, we're thinking over here that the sales manager is someone who has a team with him. Yeah. So his delivery of KRAs would also kind of be tied in by his team members that are working with him. So we're going to be looking at the collaborative goal of client connect opportunities. Okay. And we're saying in order to create client connect opportunities, let's just say that the main focus areas under that need to be understanding the client need, ideating and choosing the type of offering, plan the execution and the time frame for implementation, market and communicate to the client, and finally also then close the orders. Okay. And let's just say I have basically a team and these are my team members, and I've done the Belbin profiling for the team, and therefore I know my team members' top roles. So I've got Ajay, I've got Anand, I've got Priya, and I've got Tammy. Ajay is a shaper, a plant, and a resource investigator. Anand is a team worker, completer, finisher, and implementer. Priya is a coordinator, a specialist, and a plant. And of course, Tammy is a monitor evaluator, a completer, finisher, and an implementer. Now, when we are kind of setting goals at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the project, to really start looking at how can I leverage my team members to deliver the different aspects of client connect opportunities. Yeah. So, for example, if I basically map the two together, you could say understanding the need of the client is something that would require some bit of the TW, also require meeting with the client. Anand and Ajay, therefore, would be key personnel to work in this area. Ideate and choosing a new type of offering. So again, over there, the PL, so Priya and Ajay could work closely together. Priya also has the strength of the specialist that kind of comes in. So some aspects of these two focus areas could therefore find a place in their KRAs. Plan the execution and the time frame for implementation definitely require strong IMP. Tammy or Anand could therefore now contribute in this particular area. Marketing and communicating to clients, definitely a strong SHRI. Again, Ajay can be mapped to that particular focus area. And then finally, closing the orders. Closing the orders really requires quite a bit of follow through. Tammy has both the CF and the IMP. Yeah. This exercise allows a manager to sit with his team, allows the team members to sit with their Belbin reports. It's brilliant if they also use their work style report and actually start saying, what are things that I can kind of take on into my KRA sheet.
It's a very fascinating experience, Pearl, which I've also experienced, is when this really happens. Team members really feel a sense of pride. They're contributing to something higher or bigger, okay? In the sense that it's the boss's goal, actually, and they are making the contributions. And so the commitment, I found, generally is good and strong, because once again they're getting a chance to sort of to play a script or a role where they have the inherent strengths with them, and that gives them the joy, the happiness, the pleasure that we talked about a little earlier, a feeling of self-worth. Yeah,
very true. We would definitely recommend, of course, that you do give this a try. And before I move on to the next slide, just to let you know that the comments section is open for any queries or questions that you may have. Just type that down in the comments section and send it across to us so that we can kind of have a read and possibly kind of open it up also for discussion. So what did we really look at so far? We've really looked at, therefore, if you're looking at SMART goals and we're looking at it being tangible, we're looking at established metrics. We're also saying that human performance is really important, and important to look at the process of the intangibles, really. How do we really put the focus or the spotlight on both? We looked at the concept of the 3-box strategy. And the 3-box strategy really allows us to really ensure that our goals are dynamic.
Absolutely. Agile, for that matter.
Agile. So constantly really looking at saying, okay, what is something I need to continue doing? What is something that I need to perfect? Is there something that I'm doing right now which actually should be left behind? Does there need to be a change, an alteration? Is there something new that I need to start doing? So that's the first bit, the first input that really comes about, you as an individual, making that exercise.
Yeah, and we'd really strongly recommend this approach even when you're setting the KRAs at individual levels for your subordinates, so that they already begin to see and align themselves to the bigger picture and the bigger vision that you have for your department.
Very true. We then looked at the whole aspect of when you look at a job, understanding also, of course, what are the deliverables of the job, and using the Belbin job report to really understand the behaviors and understanding really almost the meat of the job. This gives an individual a better understanding of what is expected from the person. When you have that input and when you have that insight, it now becomes easier to now focus on the individual and to say, okay, what is it that I am bringing onto the table? The job report gives you a little insight in terms of what are certain nuances that seem to be critical and that seem to be key. We then looked at the individual report. We particularly looked at the team role overview report, and we looked at the work style report. And then we really looked at how can this insight help us create KRAs that will actually align with and deliver what the job is really looking at, what it's really looking for. The aim really is, rather than having the spotlight only on the task and the outcomes, to simultaneously put the spotlight also on the person, to really look at the intangibles in a way that the person is bringing onto the table, that the job requires, and to use something like the Belbin to enable that process. So as to make goal setting a process not that is done in a hurry or done for the sake of it, but really one that gives one a vision, that gives one a purpose, and in that really has an extremely strong pull factor, a pull factor to really make a difference at work.
Absolutely, Pearl. I think this can be very exciting, especially when you're working with a team, because you can actually see and feel and experience the process and the outcomes of that.
True, very true, very true. Yeah. So we're keeping an eye also on the comments section to check and see if there is anything that's kind of come in, if there's any query that's come in, or if there's a comment that's come in. Simultaneously, also what we want to really look at is to tell you that we'd definitely like to hear from you, your feedback, and here's something to, we will be happy to share with you a Belbin and dynamic goal setting worksheet. So what we have done is the session that we've had just now online, okay, we've created a worksheet for you so that you can take the worksheet and you can really look at what are your focus areas for the year. Okay, how might you want to apply the tools and the strategies that we spoke about, and how might you want to align your goals, keeping these strategies in mind? So if you'd be kind enough to share your feedback with us, we will immediately then send you the worksheet also. I'm also going to request Jennifer to put in the link in the comments section so it becomes easier for you to click on the link and give us your feedback. It's a bit.ly link, so that's http://bit.ly feedback web me. Yeah, so that's the link that you can get onto. Definitely let us know if there are other aspects that you would kind of want to also, would want us to kind of focus on in future webinars. Yeah. Before we also leave, according to my watch, we have another minute before the 45-minute mark, and happy to also let you know that what we did today was just one aspect of the different applications, which was just the goal setting process. Of course, there are varied applications for talent management as an entire area. And all of this, of course, gets covered at the Belbin accreditation. And this is the international certification that's happening in Chennai on the 20th and 21st of June, and in Mumbai on the 22nd and the 23rd of August 2019. This is a 2-day certification that covers all of the different reports. In fact, the accreditation is the only open workshop right now that actually covers the job reports and the insight that the job report brings onto the table. So that's one aspect that we will be looking at, and of course the Belbin into place.
Wonderful. I think it was nice and very good for me to be over here, Pearl. Thank you very much for having me on over here. And please don't forget, if you have questions, to send it across as well.
Yes, most definitely. If you have any queries, if you would kind of like to look at the using Belbin for goal setting, and want some kind of material, or would want to chat to us in terms of how to do it, absolutely, we are more than happy. Please do get in touch with us. The email ID is info@prepearl.net, or even while you kind of send your feedback, just put in a note over there, and we will be extremely happy to kind of get back to you on that. Yeah. So with that, I'm doing one last check on the comments section, but thank you so very much for all of you who have signed in and have stayed with us till the end of the session. We really appreciate it. Thank you for being with us, for listening, and we'd love to hear from you in terms of how you are using some of the insights from today's session.
Beautiful. Thanks once again, and God bless you.
Yes, thank you so much from Leslie and me. Have a wonderful evening and have a fantastic weekend ahead. Take care.